Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a dark journey deep into the shadows of our modern secret world. A brilliant scientific mind vanishes without a single trace left behind on these cold city streets. Governments hide the brutal truth, while an invisible and deadly war begins in absolute silence. Forget the mighty marching armies, because the real targets are the lonely and unprotected minds. What happens when the world's most brilliant thinkers suddenly become the hunted prey in this shadow game? Welcome to the dawn of the Shadow War era, where traditional battlefields no longer dictate fate. Intelligence reports reveal a terrifying shift in global tactics during 2010. Agencies realize that highly complex machines can simply be repurchased with enough dark money. Malicious software codes can easily be patched, but a brilliant human brain takes decades to fully train. Hostile nations understood that breaking heavily fortified firewalls is a massive waste of time. To cripple a rival nation's nuclear program, you must eliminate the genius minds behind it. The atmosphere slowly shifted from strategic war rooms into a daily routine filled with suspicious eyes. Lead engineers continued their highly classified work, unaware of the deadly crosshairs on their backs. Every great mathematical breakthrough pushed these brilliant men closer toward a tragic, silent end. Directors of intelligence sat in darkness, analyzing the changing patterns of attacks. They saw the chilling truth unfold across digital maps as civilian researchers became targets. The global chessboard was effectively reset, prioritizing the silent removal of elites. A single bullet could now achieve what massive bombing campaigns had repeatedly failed to do. The vulnerability of human life became the greatest weakness in every defense system. High-tech laboratories turned into golden cages, where immense knowledge carried a lethal price tag. Unsuspecting targets walked the busy morning streets, carrying secrets that rival nations wanted. These quiet intellectuals never asked to be drafted into a brutal war without front lines. Yet their magnificent minds held the keys to absolute destruction or unparalleled dominance. The rules of engagement were entirely rewritten in the blood of men who sought scientific progress. If you possessed knowledge that could destroy a nation, would you accept the constant target on your back? The psychological toll began to quietly dismantle the brightest engineering minds today. Profound fear poisoned every interaction within the brilliant scientific community. Friendly colleagues suddenly looked like potential informants or deeply embedded sleeper agents. The chilling realization that no one was truly safe slowly crept into the government. Invisible targets were painted on the backs of men whose only weapons were complex equations. A terrifying new reality firmly took root across the monitored streets of the city. The illusion of absolute security shattered as the first operation was put in motion. The Shadow War had officially begun, and the opening shots would not be fired by soldiers. The chilling campaign in the fog began with a series of events unfolding in the capital. Dark winter mornings of 2010 witnessed the sudden, violent disappearance of crucial minds. Phantoms on stealthy sport motorcycles effortlessly blended into the heavy morning traffic. These faceless assassins tracked their unsuspecting targets through the rainy, congested urban labyrinth. Records reveal the brutal efficiency of magnetic bombs attached to moving vehicles. In mere seconds, a brilliant lifetime of research was entirely consumed by a roaring fireball. The attackers vanished like smoke into the cold rain, leaving absolutely no evidence behind. Lead engineers constantly checked their rearview mirrors, sweating profusely in the tight confines of their cars. Every approaching motorcycle engine became a terrifying harbinger of certain death. Classified intelligence files confirm at least 4 major scientists perished that dark year. The surgical precision of these covert strikes left the security apparatus paralyzed. Ordinary commutes transformed into deadly gauntlets of extreme paranoia and pure, dark dread. The chilling message sent by the shadow assassins was undeniably clear to all involved. We can reach your most valuable minds anywhere, at any time, and there is nothing you can do. Local police forces were completely useless against military operatives in the dark. The tragic aftermath of these covert strikes forced a radical and desperate shift in protocols. Experts claim these perfectly orchestrated silent strikes spread maximum terror among the ruling elites. The nation was slowly bleeding its intellectual lifeblood onto the rain-slicked asphalt of the city. Emergency meetings were held in buried bunkers, safely away from vulnerable windows. Every surviving scientist was immediately recognized as an active, walking bullseye. The psychological warfare proved to be just as highly effective as the physical explosives. Sleep deprivation and deep anxiety severely disrupted the work inside the laboratories. The invisible enemy successfully slowed down the defense program without launching a missile. They forced the government to aggressively cage its own brilliant citizens just to keep them breathing. The cost of immense genius was now measured in the terrifying currency of blood and profound fear. Directors realized that passive defense would eventually lead to their total destruction. A fundamental shift in covert strategic thinking was necessary to survive this deadly crisis. The storm of violence was about to drag the survivors into a suffocating new reality. The peak of absolute paranoia arrived during the bitterly cold winter of 2012. Protective protocols were pushed to red alert, completely altering the lives of the global elite. Top engineers were abruptly stripped of personal freedoms and relocated to secure concrete bunkers. They became high-value prisoners of the very national system they were trying to protect. Heavily armed elite bodyguards formed a suffocating human shield around these terrified scientists. The constant presence of tactical weapons served as a dark reminder of the invisible crosshairs. Inside these sterile concrete safe rooms, the psychological pressure broke the greatest minds of our time. The lead engineer sat entirely alone, his deep, dark circles reflecting weeks of sleepless nights. Accounts describe this grim period as a mental breakdown among the highest ranks of academia. They could calculate complex nuclear trajectories, but they could not predict the next stealth motorcycle. The oppressive silence of the dark bunkers was only broken by the heavy footsteps of patrolling guards. Natural sunlight became a forgotten luxury, replaced entirely by harsh artificial bulbs. If survival meant living your entire life inside a concrete cage, would you truly consider it living? Families were ruthlessly separated without any clear explanation, adding immense trauma. The terrifying reality of the Shadow War had finally penetrated the thickest steel walls. You can protect a human body from explosions, but you cannot easily protect a mind from sheer madness. Intelligence leaders realized their defensive strategy was creating broken and useless assets. A scientist who cannot properly focus or sleep is incapable of delivering vital progress. The enemy had effectively paralyzed the scientific backbone by weaponizing pure terror. Desperation reached a critical boiling point within the classified underground command centers. The highest officials understood that playing a purely defensive game meant a slow, painful defeat. To save the remaining minds, the government had to orchestrate a brutal and incredibly swift response. The counterintelligence network was tightened to maximum capacity for a dark escalation. Silent commands were securely transmitted to deeply embedded sleeper agents across the entire globe. To end a campaign of terror, one must establish a ruthless and mutual equilibrium. A dark and invisible line was crossed, shifting the Shadow War into its most ruthless and deadly phase yet. The hunted were about to become the hunters, and foreign capitals would soon feel the terrible wrath. The dominoes had officially fallen, and the devastating chain reaction could no longer be stopped. By late 2012, the tragic consequences of retaliation manifested abroad. In the freezing, snow-covered alleys of a distant nation, the same tragic accidents began to unfold. Counter-agents fulfilled dark directives with the exact same mechanical precision as their deadly foes. Enemy scientists and elite engineers suddenly found themselves stepping into the same nightmare. An unannounced war of mutual scientific destruction raged beneath the oblivious public. The masterminds of the original strikes were now aggressively hunted down in their own secured cities. A highly fragile balance of terror was finally established through sheer uncompromising violence. Both sides agreed to halt the silent strikes only because the tragic losses became unsustainable. The crisis was neutralized, but the deep psychological scars of the Shadow War would remain forever. Back in the bunkers, the brilliant lead engineer continued his work, staring through thick, bulletproof glass. He survived the dark onslaught, but fully understood his true freedom had been permanently sacrificed. Peace arrived only when both spy agencies saw the threat of absolute mutual destruction. The devastating war of covert strikes finally turned into a highly monitored standoff. Elite minds were no longer vanishing on the streets, but they remained deeply and tragically isolated. Desperate governments spent massive billions just to build underground fortresses to hide their greatest thinkers. For the invisible agents, this silence was just a tactical pause in the dark Shadow War. A chilling reminder that intellectual brilliance will always make you a primary target. Decades of studying advanced physics ended abruptly in the blink of a ruthless explosion. History books will forever hide the true scale of the lives shattered during these quiet operations. A secret conflict where no medals were awarded and no victorious speeches were ever given. The deadly streets eventually returned to normal for the completely oblivious population. But those permanently trapped inside the concrete walls know the terror is always waiting in the dark corners. The engineer continues his crucial work, a silent prisoner of his own incredible genius. The balance of dark fear remains intact. But how long until the next phantom assassin finally arrives? As technology advances, the invisible war for intelligence will only grow far deadlier. This chilling chapter of espionage proves that the human mind is still the ultimate weapon. We are left to wonder if absolute safety can ever exist in this high-stakes global arena. The ghosts of covert action continue to watch from the shadows, waiting for their deadly next move. Are these covert strikes necessary evils for national safety, or just ruthless crimes of a state? Share your profound thoughts on this deadly diplomatic gamble right down in the comment section below. Please remember to like this video, share it with friends, and subscribe to our channel for more secrets.